Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. Thanks for checking back in. Today we're going to be reviewing and repairing this knife, the Hogue Ritter RSK. You can see that chip in the edge there. One of the chips, it's got several, but yeah, we're going to be using the Venev 240 grit, 400 grit combination diamond matrix stone to repair this KnifeWorks exclusive Hogue Ritter RSK MK1G2 N20CV. So I ran this knife through my performance test and put a few chips in the edge and just need to repair it, and thought that I would record the sharpening and talk about these stones because I just really enjoy using these Venev diamond stones. So let's get into it. These are, you can pick these up at Gritomatic, and they come in several different grit combinations, so they're all combination stones, and this one in particular is part of the Phoenix series, which is a little bit less expensive than the other series that they have, and they start at about $82 and go anywhere from 80 grit, I believe, up to 2000 grit. So this is the 240, 400, and basically what these stones are is an aluminum plate with 1 millimeter thick of different grit abrasive on each side, and it's essentially synthetic diamond particles embedded in a type of resin and just attached to this aluminum plate. So the 240 grit and below is actually in a abrasive type resin binder, where the 400 grit and above is in a non-abrasive, what they call OCB binder. So it's supposed to, the OCB being non-abrasive, is supposed to leave a more consistent finished scratch pattern than the lower grits. The lower grits, I guess they're not too concerned about that. And I've really been enjoying these stones for the past several months, and I thought I would share my thoughts on them. So just getting after it right now, trying to get these chips out of the edge and fix this bevel that's been bothering me for ever since I bought this knife. It came with at about the last inch or two of blade length on this. The bevel is about was about twice as wide on one side as it was the other. So I think this is my third or fourth sharpening, and I've just been slowly trying to bring it back even as I go. I didn't want to do it all at once and waste a bunch of steel, but I think I've finally gotten to the point where it's about perfectly even now. So this 240 grit stone, even though that is technically a pretty low grit rating, the thing about these stones being embedded in that resin is they don't really cut as fast as, say, a 240 grit diamond plate would. Since, you know, the particles are embedded in that resin, there's not as much of them sticking out of the resin, I guess. So they're not quite as, they don't cut quite as fast as a coarse diamond plate would. So just keep that in mind if you're going to buy some of these, that if you're really going and you need to reprofile something like this, like normally if I wasn't going to do this video, I would probably use a coarse diamond plate or an extra coarse diamond plate to remove these chips very quickly. So you see this whole sharpening is 17 minutes long, which is really not that long for a full sharpening and stropping, but even still, I probably could have cut the time almost in half if I would have just used a diamond plate for this. But you can definitely get the 8150 grit combination stone that'll cut much faster, I'm sure, but I have heard that even those don't cut as fast as, say, a diamond plate would, and that makes sense just considering how they're made. And normally with these on Gritomatic's website, it just says the lubricant that you should use on them is water. I just use Dawn and just soap and water mixed in a spray bottle and spray it on there, and that works really well for me. So like I said, not that abrasive of a stone, but leaves a really good finish. If you were to just use this grit, I think that would be perfectly fine for, say, like a rich carbide steel or high vanadium carbide steel like S90V or S110V or even 10V or something like that, that likes a lower grit edge, this would probably be a perfect finish for that. Be nice and aggressive, be difficult to get hair whittling sharp, but in terms of just everyday use, I think it would be excellent. And I'm just trading the burr back and forth now, reducing it and trying to eliminate it. I think we're pretty much got all the chips out at this point. I was going to run this at double speed, but looks like the camera is zooming in and out as I move my arm, and when I did it at double the speed, it just looked like it was moving around too much, so I decided to change it and just run it at regular speed. You guys can speed it up on YouTube if you want to do that, so you don't have to sit through the whole thing. But I would say my only real criticism of these stones, and it's not really a criticism, it's just a fact, is that they load up really quickly. And once they're loaded up, they don't cut very well. And some of the higher grits, once they get loaded up, they really don't cut at all. So one thing that you definitely need if you buy some of these is a magic eraser and a flattening stone to resurface them. But using the magic eraser really kind of saved me with these, because I was sort of redressing them like every 2 times I used them and wasting a lot of abrasive. And since I started using the magic eraser, I've probably sharpened 10 different knives on these stones without having to redress them. So that's an excellent thing, and they don't wear really hardly at all. The lower grit ones do. This 240 one will wear a little bit. You know, some of the abrasive will come off, some of the binder will come off, but not very much at all. And it sort of just creates a little bit of a slurry, especially if you're sharpening like a kitchen knife on here that's really long. You'll see a little bit of grit come off. But once you get to about 400 and above, they don't really wear at all, from what I can tell. But either way, I feel like if you take care of them and just clean them off most of the time instead of redressing them, they'll probably last you a lifetime either way. So we got the burr reduced, got the chips removed, moving on to the 400 grit. And this is about equivalent to a Spyderco medium ceramic stone, or 800 grit in, standard grits, what most stones are rated as. This Venev rating is a little bit different from most. And then that 240 grit, I don't know if I said or not, but is about equivalent to a 320 grit diamond stone or something similar to that. So even though it doesn't really cut as fast as a 320 grit diamond plate would. So now that we got all the chips removed, we're just refining the scratch pattern and reducing the burr as we go, lightening up the pressure as we go, and just checking for burr and making sure that everything is nice and refined and the scratch pattern is even and that the burr is pretty much gone before we move on to the stropping. And like I said, once you get up to this 400 grit, it does load up pretty quickly. And once it loads up, it doesn't cut at all, but 10-20 seconds under some warm water with one of those magic erasers will clean this thing right off, and you'll be right back to cutting your steel pretty easily. And this stone leaves a very good consistent finish with no like random deep scratches or anything like that, and it leaves a beautifully toothy, aggressive, but also like a good combination between a push cutting sharp, easily push cut through a piece of receipt paper, but also nice and aggressive where you can pop through a piece of strapping or a zip tie or something like that pretty easily. So I really like this particular stone and the finish that it leaves. It's one of my favorite. It's what I sharpen pretty much all my test knives to, and generally my everyday carry knives too, unless I just feel like putting a mirror polish on them. I generally end on this stone. So moving on to the strops here, we've reduced our burr and pretty much eliminated it. And that's another thing about these stones, and one of my favorite things about them is, in terms of burr removal off a stone, there are some stones that it's very difficult to remove burr off of, and other stones where it seems to just come right off for me. And these stones, as well as silicone carbide stones, seem like the best stones for easy burr removal to me. It's almost like I don't even have to attempt it sometimes with these stones. It just going through a standard sharpening, it just automatically goes away. And I really can appreciate that with these stones. Where other stones like ceramic stones, a lot of times I have to fight the burr with those. Diamond plates, depending on the steel, a lot of times I'll have to fight the burr with those. But most steels I've used on these, it's really easy to get rid of it. And if there is a tiny little burr left at the end, it easily comes off on the strops in most cases. So right now we're stropping on basswood, and I apologize that I didn't get this like in view of the shot. I didn't realize it wasn't in there, and I can't go back now and fix it. But basically, this is a 4 micron Jindy compound on a piece of basswood, and I generally strop like this. I like to have the strop in my hand, held up close to my face where I can see the edge touch down on the strop and really have good control over what I'm doing. And you see I switch hands just like I do when I'm sharpening, with the edge facing me so I can see it and also feel what's going on. And that's just the way I like to do it. I get better results this way, as well as sharpening with both hands and the edge facing to me. Shout out to Big Brown Bear for that. He's the one that suggested people learn that a long time ago, so I took him up on the offer, and I'm definitely glad that I did, because for many years I was just sharpening with one hand. So finished up, burr's completely gone off the 4 micron, switching over to the Gunny Juice 1 micron polycrystalline diamond emulsion, and I'm really digging this compound so far. It's actually worked really well for me in the short amount of time I've had it. So the first thing I did with it when I got it was took the Manix 2 that I got in the SPY 27, the new one, and the factory edge on it was really good and sharp. And they normally are from Golden, Colorado, Spider Coast factory. And I checked it against the hair, and it wouldn't catch on the hair, wouldn't whittle it, wouldn't cut it in half or anything. So I took it, put some of this 1 micron compound on this piece of basswood, and hit it about 10 times on each side with fairly light pressure, and checked it against the hair again, and it was absolutely hair whittling sharp. Some parts of the edge were blowing right through the hair, other parts were whittling it. So right off the bat I was pretty pleased with the compound, and that's really the only thing I've tried it on. So I wanted to try it with one of my full sharpenings and see what kind of performance I got out of it. So now I'm just really focusing in on the apex, making sure I'm polishing the apex up good, as well as the rest of the bevel, and refining that scratch pattern down. You can take a good consistent grit off of these, or off of this 400 grit stone, and almost get a mirror polish off of it just off the strops. So can't say enough good things about these Venev stones. Like I said, the only real downsides to them are the fact that they load up quickly, that the lower grits don't cut that fast, and you know, that's really pretty much it. I don't have any other real complaints about them. And they're 8x3, so they're nice and large size stones. So you got plenty of surface area to sharpen on. And here we go, checking it against the hair. Then when we're done, there's a little whittle. And there's another one. So there you go, guys. Good compound, as far as I can tell so far. And you know, that's not super low grit, 1 micron. Could go much lower than that and get it even sharper, but that's very good in my opinion. And didn't take very long to get it there either. And leaves a pretty good polish. Combined with these stones, I think that's a winning combination. Beautiful finish. And you know, if I were to take it up to the higher grit stones and finish on the 1200 and then strop, and I'd have an absolute full-blown mirror polish on there. But I'm happy with this. I like the performance of this edge, and I really wanted to show off just this stone in particular. And maybe I'll do a video in the future of the other one and talk about it for a little while. But for today, I just wanted to go over the 240-400 because it's probably my favorite one and the one that I use the most and have the most experience with. So I hope you guys enjoyed that, found it useful. I'm going to put another little clip in at the end of a video of the edge so you guys can see it a little bit better, I hope. Not a full-blown mirror polish, still a little cloudy and hazy, but definitely a great working finish and one of my favorite grit levels to bring an edge to just for everyday use. And I'm also going to insert in the grit rating card from Gritomatic that you get when you buy these stones that shows the difference in grit ratings between these stones and some of the others on the market. And hopefully you guys will be able to see that well when I insert it at the end. But that's pretty much it, guys. Hope you enjoyed, found it useful, and it was informative. I appreciate you guys watching, and we'll see you next time.